It is Phil Kornblut. He is a guy that has covered South Carolina and Clemson. Phil, thank you so much for being a part of our show in Tuscaloosa. I hope you're doing well, sir.
I am indeed. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let me read this, okay? I know you're with Sports Talk SC as the best way to connect with him. Sports Talk Radio Network there in South Carolina. You do a radio show, but 32 years of sports talk in the South. Just from my perspective, I've been doing it since 2000, so nowhere near 32 years. Just help us understand where Sports Talk Radio is. Just maybe give us a little tip of advice. I mean, you serve the South Carolina audience very, very well, and when you're able to stay in the business 32 years, you've seen a lot of changes. Just help us. Give us a little tip for someone still trying to learn from some of those veterans like yourself.
Well, find a place you love and love it, and never look at the clock. Do what you have to do to put the best show that you can every day on the air. Every day's a new day. Every show's a new show. New listeners, and just find that passion of something that you want to cover and the people that you want to be around, and you'll do fine. And the passion will come through. If you have the knowledge and you have the work ethic, all that will come through. Just remember, you can't fool the audience. Sports people today, sports fans today, are so much smarter than they were 30 years ago in terms of the knowledge at their fingertips. They don't need you anymore to provide them with the news and the information. They can get that themselves, but what they do like are opinions and insight, good, bad, or indifferent. But you need to know your subject because you can't fool the audience. So that would be my little bit of advice if anybody wants to take it.
No, that's good stuff because, I'm always, I do a solo show here, and, there is some local solo shows. I don't know many that go 4 hours the way that we do from a local format. And thank you, Nick Saban, I guess is all we can really say. I mean, because he's really created a lot of excitement here that gives us a chance to talk. And the interns that we have, and they rotate throughout the semester here from the university, they're always asking me, and that's why, I read your bio, and I said, 32 years, I got to grab a little bit of information, and I always try to share something with those interns, and I'm asked all the time, how do you get in talk radio? And I always say, you got to be diversified, right? You got to be able to write, you got to be able to talk, you got to be able to do video, you got to be able to, it's the way that our business is turning into a multimedia platform.
Exactly. When I started in 1977, my job was to go take a little tape recorder, interview people, and take it back to the station, and that was it. And that certainly has changed now with the Internet. Our whole lives have changed with the Internet. New duties, new responsibilities, much more work for no more pay. Bosses still expect the same product. They just expect more of it, which is okay. It's what we do. And I think that getting an internship, if you're talking about a young person, getting an internship, getting a part-time job, doing anything at SW, and never saying no to an assignment, never turning anything down will work in your favor. You'll find out in a hurry, if it's for you. If not, you'll move on to something else.
Well, Phil, I definitely appreciate the knowledge that you're helping us out. Now we want to tap into another part of your expertise, and that's covering Clemson. Help us understand sort of the mindset coming off of the Orange Bowl win against Oklahoma, where this team is mentally right now after Media Day.
Well, they are very confident. They believe in themselves. They believe that they are where they are supposed to be. They don't believe that they have to take a back seat to anybody when it comes to the national championship. And they're looking forward to it. They see this as a great opportunity to further establish their brand and show that, that they're right up there with the very best programs in the country. And that they're not going to go away, win or lose on Monday night. They're not going away. They'll be right back next year because they do have a young team built with a dynamic quarterback who's back for at least another year. Great recruiting class coming in. So they're no one-trick pony. They'll be back, and they'll be in contention in the ACC and nationally again next year. But their focus is on getting it done on Monday night.
Phil, if you could help us understand how Dabo has built that program, because we are huge fans of Dabo. I mean, we feature him on this program 4 or 5 times a year, at least. He's just a overall quality person. He's just an inspiration to a lot of different people. And, if I was a beat reporter there covering them daily, I'd probably get caught up in how much of a good guy he really is. And it's just, you talk with his assistant coaches, and he's a family-oriented guy. He puts faith right there at the top of his priorities. And it just seems like his hard work has paid off there in Clemson, South Carolina. Is that the way he's built this program? Is it hard work that has allowed Clemson to get where it is?
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. I think that he really has put his heart and soul into this. 7 years ago, when he became the head coach, he felt like they could win championships at Clemson. He set out to recruit the best players that he could get, especially in the state of South Carolina and in Florida. He set out to build the best staff he could build. He's done that. They've given him a lot of a budget, and they've given him a lot of resources. They've said no to nothing that he's felt like he's needed to make his program successful. And then he's preached. He's preached. He has stood by his principles, his philosophies, his approach. And people used to laugh at some of the things he would say, and I'd hear Clemson people say, "Man, do we have a football coach or a cheerleader?" And I think they realize that they got a football coach who's a heck of a promoter and a heck of a salesman and a heck of a recruiter. So, they got all the best of both worlds there, and they couldn't be happier about it.
When you look at Clemson right now, and I ask you this, we were talking earlier, I want to talk about their offensive line. How strong is it? How good is it? If you're rating on a scale of 1 to 10, where is this offensive line rated in your opinion?
I'd have to put them at about a 7. They've been pretty solid all year. Had a little bit of a injury issue late in the season at right guard. That's been resolved. Center was in a little bit of flux for a while, but they've settled on Jay Guillermo. That seems to be very solid. True freshman left tackle who's been outstanding. They're able to rotate people in and out on a regular basis, young guys in and out on a regular basis. They're solid. They're solid. Not spectacular, but they're very solid. And, they don't ask their offensive line to go up and maul you and overpower you because of the offense they run. They run a spread. So they ask the offense to get a little crease here, get in the way there, the offensive line, get in the little crease here, get in the way there, shield a guy here. When it comes to knocking you off the ball, they're doing a better job of that this year. They're certainly tougher, more physical than they've been in recent years, and that's positive. So it's a good offensive line. It's probably, it's totally rebuilt. There's only one starter back on a regular basis. That's at right guard. So it was totally rebuilt in the off season. You got a new starter at left tackle, a new starter at left guard, new starter at center, and a part-time starter back at right tackle. So they've come together well, and except for that little issue at right guard, they've stayed healthy.
In your opinion, what is the best defensive line they've played all season?
Best defensive line they've played all season probably would be, you got to look at Florida State. You got to look at Notre Dame.
Boston College is pretty difficult, too, is it not? I mean, they're
Boston College, yeah. I don't think, you're right. Their defense was great. Their team was bad, but their defense was very good. And then I was going to say Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma had some very good defensive linemen as well, but Clemson pretty much wore them down in the second half in the Orange Bowl.
So as we look at this team Phil, in your opinion right now, we're talking with Phil Kornblut helping us out. It is Sports Talk SC, and what a network he has been able to build there in South Carolina. It is the Sports Talk Radio Network, and the best way to connect with him is sportstalksc.com. You can also find him on the Twitter account. Phil, when you look at this game, what does it come down to? What do you think this game, what will decide this game, the winner and the loser?
Well, first of all, I think for certain turnovers will be a huge factor, always is, and I think anytime you're in a championship game, that's going to be big. Secondly, you have to look at the obvious. What can Clemson do defensively against Derrick Henry? What can Alabama do defensively against Deshaun Watson and the other key members of Clemson's offense? And how well will they be controlled? And whoever is better in those areas is probably going to win the game. There'll be some other side battles, some other side issues. You know, you got to take advantage of every opportunity. You can't be missing field goals, things of that nature. But I think those are the key things. How will Clemson's defense hold up against the onslaught, the rush of Derrick Henry and that offense? I think Mackenzie Alexander will likely be matched up against Calvin Ridley. Got to separate him from his brother. And that'll be an interesting matchup. Alexander is as good as they come in the country, really, in man coverage. So you could maybe see Ridley eliminated or taken away a little bit, if not a lot. Clemson up front feels like they're physical enough to handle the rush. And then offensively, Deshaun Watson's a special player. I know Alabama's got a great defensive front. They're big, they're physical. But how well can they move? Clemson's going to run side to side. They're going to throw a lot of bubble screens. They're going to try and get Watson mobile, running left and right and throwing off the run. They had their problems with Chad Kelly. They had their problems with Dak Prescott. They had their problems with Tennessee. All have outstanding quarterbacks that gave Alabama issues. So, I could see Alabama having some issues here with Clemson. I, for one, don't foresee just an Alabama walkover.
If I look at this game, let me ask you about the depth, and I do appreciate you joining us, and I'm maybe a couple of minutes over here, and I apologize. How is the depth on that defensive side of the football? Because at this point in the season, playing a physical style team, what is the depth like on that defensive side of the football for Clemson?
Well, it's good. They are concerned about Shaq Lawson and his knee injury that he suffered in the Orange Bowl. And he told us today that if the game were today, he did not think he could play today. But he thinks by Monday he'll be okay. So that's good news. If he can't play, they've got a true freshman that stepped in and played a lot against Oklahoma, played the last three quarters for the most part, and did a nice job that they feel really good about, Austin Bryant. They're not as deep as Alabama. They're good up front. Alabama's defensive front today is where Clemson was last year, deep and talented. Clemson's this year is talented. They just don't have the exorbitant depth that they've had in the past. So they'll rotate in along their front four. They'll run in about two or three other guys, giving them, 5 or 6, 7 quality players that they can run in there. Their linebackers, they're starting, 2 or 3, depending on what formations they're in. But they've got an additional 2 or 3 they'll run in. Secondary, they pretty much go with their 4 and throw a nickel in there, and there's probably one other they can sub in. So that's kind of what it looks like for them on defense. But, this is going to be, unlike last week where it was hot and humid, they played in Miami Gardens and it was 85 degrees or 80. They kicked off at 4:30. It's probably low 80s and humidity probably in 60 or 70%. And it was hot and humid. This will be indoors, enclosed, so they're not going to really have that kind of issue from the standpoint of fatigue and just being worn out. Now, they might get worn out by Alabama's offense up front, but I don't think the weather will be a factor.
Well, Phil, I'm looking forward to seeing the game Monday night. We wish you safe travels, and thank you so much for helping us out here in Tuscaloosa, break down college football. We have a passion about college football, and we can tell with your knowledge and your energy, you feel the same way about college football as we do. I'll see you in Arizona, my friend. Thank you again for being a part of the show here in Tuscaloosa.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Great being with you, and I do look forward to seeing you in Arizona.